All right, day 3. I'm gonna move all my stuff down to the work site, which is always fun when it's at the end of your lot and you don't want to leave it there overnight, but it's part of the hazards. So as I walk, taking the first load down, just had a couple thoughts before we get started today. One is all the lumber, just a quick shout out, I went to Discount Builder in Wendell, and they were great. Definitely lower price than big box. And guy there that helped me, Kenny, man, he was A+. He was helping me pick out good boards. He was super patient. He helped me whenever he realized my math was probably a little off. I put a little extra in padding in there, and I didn't need all the boards I was asking them to get. So if you get Kenny, tell him I sent you. He won't remember me, but it's okay. Secondly, you notice like the floor that I've been building is out of plywood, and that is not according to the plan exactly that I bought, that I'm using. They use OSB. They used OSB in a few places throughout the build, but I feel better about plywood on the floor, especially because I'm gonna be putting my lawnmower in here, coming in and out, and OSB is just gonna get ripped up, I feel like, over time. So I spent a little extra on, and got the plywood, and 3/4 inch sheeting plywood. So probably seal it in too, just to give a little extra protection, polyurethane or something, just something, because that's where it's going to get the most wear and tear. So anyway, let's get started. So I did do one more thing yesterday on day 2 before I called it quits, because I remembered it and just summoned the energy to get it done. But putting the middle block, so I've got a set of middle blocks 6 foot in, right? This is where my doors will be, the front of the shed, and then blocks in the middle on the back as well. So they're in line, and I'm putting extra support under the front and back beams of the floor, because that's the most that's where the load bearing is happening in the design. I'm not doing it on the 6 foot on the sides where the slopes of the roof come down. That's my understanding of where you should put your extra blocks. One more thought about where you get your wood from. If you need to create a parts list, a materials list, and if you buy plans, that probably comes with it. And call some places, call a couple of different lumber yards and see what they can do for you. The other thing is understanding quality of plywoods and things like that. I did not understand that. In fact, my quote was lower than actuality because I asked for the wrong kind of plywood when I got there. The experts helped me realize my errors. So my floor, I think, is BC quality. It was the best that they had. And then there's sheathing quality, and then it's like shop quality or something. And that's what I thought I was gonna go for, but it's crappy. So don't get that stuff unless you know that you want that stuff. So there's my tips on plywood. All right, so I'm gonna do a time lapse of this next stretch of work, because I'm gonna do the other rope, the other tie down that I talked about and did yesterday. So I'll just let you see that and fast forward so you can see what was involved in that. quick comment on these not U-bolts, but wire clamps. As it was told to me, you don't saddle a dead horse. Now, as you begin to wonder what on earth that means, the cut end, which is a little long here, the cut end, but man, it's so tough to cut, I might just leave it like this. That's the dead horse, all right? It's the dead horse, and you don't saddle him. So what does that mean? Well, the U part of the bolt is a saddle. So you want to saddle the live horse, which is the part that runs to the other side. So that's what it means. That's how you know which side to put the saddle on, because you don't saddle a dead horse. All right, I am using some construction adhesive. I was using liquid nails, ran out of that, so I've got this lying around Loctite. Laying it on the floor joist before I put the plywood down, just to add one more layer of stickiness in addition to the nails. Something to consider. Not required, but I did see it as a tip online. Plugging my air compressor in.
Pikachu! 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 Pikachu!
So this is how I'm ripping plywood. You can buy a $50 ripping fence or whatever they call them, little jigs that you can clamp down, or you can use your 4-foot leveler and clamp it. And so what you do when you do this is you gotta be careful. You gotta measure the line you want to cut, so that I'm cutting this in half, 4 foot. So I've got my 4-foot marker. That's where I want my saw blade to hit. But to run along this fence, you have to measure the distance from your saw blade to the outer rail here on the saw. So when I do that, put the measuring tape up against the blade, and then I can see that it's 1 7/16, and so basically I then measure another line 1 7/16 over, and that's where I clamp my fence. And like that, I've got a floor. Looks good, man. Feel really good about getting this to this point. It's a good feeling to accomplish something like this. Next up, you could build the walls, put those up, but I'm going to take advantage of this nice, huge 144 square foot work table. And I'm going to go ahead and build the rafters. So it'll kind of be prefab rafters according to the plan, although I have adjusted that. And I'll build them on the ground, put them off to the side, and keep them to when I get ready for them. But just doing it before I put the walls up. So the plans for the rafters call for a king post and bottom cord kind of arrangement. I'm not a roof expert, so I don't know, exactly what this formation is called, but it's in the plans. The big trouble I'm having, or had, because I've worked through it, is that the plans had a 412 roof, 412 slope to the roof, and I'm going with a 712 because I want it to be steeper so that the rain will run off. I'm also adjusting how much overhang I have for a couple reasons on how I'm going to do the material I'm using for my roof. So I worked it out in SketchUp. It's some software that you can download that helps you design. And I thought I had it right. I had all the measurements right, and I was wrong. I had most of it right, but that king post there was too short when I cut it. So I cut another one based on how we've got it worked out here on the table. And of course I'm using my work area here, my actual shed, as my work table, so that's cool. I've worked up a jig. I'm gonna fly the drone up so we can get an aerial shot of this so we can see it from a bird's eye. But I'm using these little blocks screwed in just to hold it in place, so that when I put my gussets on the joints where these wood pieces meet, it doesn't move. And on top of that, when I make the next 6, because you have to make 7 for this design, it'll go a lot faster. It's been a long time since I did a little moment of video because I've been really busy. So I'll show you what I've been doing. Cutting gusses. So you got the truss, of course, is laid out in the jig. And now I've gone and cut all of these gussets out of OSB. You can see I got one at the peak and one at each corner. And of course, one will need to go here, and I just haven't cut those. And you can see, my goodness, you gotta have a lot when you're doing a truss. So anyway, tomorrow we'll make some more headway. Signing off.